Hi, Shabbat Shalom. It actually is the Sabbath, and I am going to be reading the Torah portion for this week, week 25, and it's Tzav, Tzav, and it means command. And I'm Lanita Ellis, the Scrappy Grandma, and I'm reading the Torah portions, and I want to start in prayer. And we'll start there and then we'll continue. Father God, I thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to read your word and come to you with questions, and you help me to seek out the answers, and that I can share this with whoever it is you bring to this channel to share it with. I'm so humbled and thankful to be able to share the passion that you've put in my heart for your word and getting to know you and learning to be how to live in covenant with you, with whoever it is you bring to hear these words. This is all for your honor and glory, and I lift it all up to you. I ask that you please help the technology work and not let my video stop halfway through. Just let it be completed today. I pray your protection over this recording, and that it goes out and reaches who it's supposed to reach. In Yahusha's mighty name. Amen. Okay, let's go. So first, in doing my study, in all honesty, this will be the third time I've tried to record it. I have major challenges with my phone and having too much on it, and sometimes the recording just stops. Like yesterday I tried twice and I got like a half hour into it and then it just stopped. So, and being that I don't yet know how to edit and I don't have an editing program, I have to start over. So that's fine. It really helped me to get the word in me, which is awesome. I've been, since I've read it over a few times now, and while I was, while I was reading through, I was taking notes in my Torah portions workbook from Agape Love Co. This is awesome. It's been so fun to be able to, that, and then listening to a Shabbat service this morning. I did that. For me, it just helps me to quit the racing thoughts, come in, focus and listen, and color away. But anyway, so we are starting with our Torah portion this week, week number 25, Tzav, 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 maybe. And it means command, and it's Leviticus 6, 1 through 8:36. And so what this portion is about is the commands that were given to Moses, for the activities of for the priests and the sacrifices. And so it goes over several different sacrifices. And Leviticus has always been one of those books that there was so much detail about stuff that I thought didn't correlate to my life at all. So why pay attention to it? Because sacrifices are no longer happening in the temple, things like that. So why, it's just a bunch of, they're killing a bunch of animals. That's literally, and there's so much detail, and it was so confusing because it meant nothing to me. Now in searching through the portions and studying and coming to this point, where we've read through Genesis, Exodus, and now into Leviticus, I'm really loving Leviticus. I'm seeing so many cool things that I never saw before, and I'm just thankful to the Father that He's opened my eyes to see these beautiful things, especially with the sacrifices and us coming into, we are to be living sacrifices. So it makes the sacrifices make a lot more sense. So let's get started. So it's 6:1 through 8:36, and so we begin. Leviticus 6:1, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, when any being sins and commits a trespass against Yahuwah, and has lied to his neighbor about a deposit or about a pledge or about a robbery, or shall extort from his neighbor, or has found what was lost and then lied concerning it, or did swear falsely to that, he sins in regard to any one of all these that a man does. Hold on one second. Put my feet up. There we go. Okay. So, or all about which he swore falsely, he shall repay its total value and add 1/5 more to it, and give it to whom it belongs on the day of his guilt offering. So he's on the way to offering up his guilt offering, and before he does, he needs to go make restitution and adds 1/5 to it, and then he can go make his offering. And this is when making and seeing bins commits, let's see which, well, we're going to get to the offer, or to the offering. The sacrifice is coming up here. Then he brings his guilt, so this is for the guilt offering. He brings his guilt offering to Yahuwah, a ram, a perfect one from the flock, with your valuation as a guilt offering to the priest. And the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahuwah, and he shall be forgiven for whatever he did that made him guilty. So this is, he's bringing his sin offering, his guilt offering, and we'll get to what the guilt offering means. This has been so fascinating, finding out what all these different offerings. And the cool thing about this is that these offerings were not mandatory. They were voluntary. These were free will offerings. They were not mandatory. We think that, oh man, Yahuwah just wants a bunch of blood and he just wants a bunch of dead animals. That's what I thought through the years. And that's not the case. And these are free will. These are offerings that people out of their heart want to bring the best that they have and offer it up to Yahuwah to get closer to him. He doesn't need our offerings. He doesn't need dead animals and smoke and barbecue. And this is a way to build community and bring us closer to him. So Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, command Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the Torah, the instructions of the ascending offering. And this is actually called the Olah offering. And this book really helped to break down what the offerings, and this is the year through Torah. And so this is the Olah, is the ascending offering. And this is a free will sacrifice that was consumed entirely by fire on the altar. So it was all burned up. The sacrificial victim, so the person who brought the animal in to offer the sacrifice the sacrificial victim must be an animal or a bird that is without defect. Now, without defect, and what the Jewish people today, or the rabbinical Jews that have added oral Torah, or added to the Torah a bunch of extra oral traditions of men, what they consider perfect, like with the red heifers right now that are over and being inspected and possibly going to be sacrificed and made to cleanse the third temple, which they're waiting to build. They are going over these red heifers because they say it has to be perfect without spot or blemish. They're going over them with a fine-tooth comb, and they can't have more than 4 white hairs. I don't believe Yahuwah was that overly picky. When he says a perfect one without spot or wrinkle, he doesn't want you bringing your one that has a broken leg or limps or has some sort of birth defect or things like that. He doesn't want, oh, well, this one's no good, let's go sacrifice it. It's like he wants you to go and look through your flock and pick out your best. and bring that to offer to him. And that's a sacrifice. You're sacrificing your best for him. So this is the Olah offering, O-L-A-H. And so it has to be without defect. As the animal is slaughtered, the Kohen, the priest, catches its blood in a pan and sprinkles it on the altar. The animal is then cut up, salted, and entirely burned up. Normally, it's called semika, which means the laying on of the hands on the head of the animal, and vidui, which means confession of sin, accompanies the sacrifice. So the person that's bringing the offering lays their hands on the head of the animal and confesses their sins. So in the case of a bird olah, so if instead of bringing a ox or a ram, or they bring a bird, then the laying off the hands is not performed. And the olah sacrifice must be offered during the daylight hours and must be burned through the night. So that means the priests therefore need to be present at the tabernacle around the clock, tending to the sacrifices and ensuring that the fire for the altar would never go out. So that explains the olah. So now as we read this, for me, it made a lot more sense. And Yahuwah commanded Moshe, saying, command Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the Torah, the instructions for the ascending offering. This is the ascending offering, because it is burned on the slaughter place all night until morning, and the fire of the slaughter place is kept burning on it. And the priest shall put on his linen garments, and put his linen trousers on his body, and shall take up the ashes of the ascending offering, which the fire has consumed on the slaughter place, and shall put them beside the slaughter place. And then he shall take off his garments and put on his other garments, and shall bring the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. And to explain that one a little bit more, it says that, where was it? Here it is. It says, so the giving of the ashes. Every morning the selected priest had to lift a shovel full of ashes from the altar and put them beside the altar, and then he would change out of his priestly clothes and take the ashes outside of the tabernacle to a clean place. This is sometimes called Turomat Ha-Deshan. And so that kind of illuminates that a little bit. Because I was like, well, why are they doing all this? And so that's, and the fire on the slaughter, so we'll start back at 12. And the fire on the slaughter place is kept burning on it. It is not put out, and the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and arrange the ascending offering on it, and shall burn on it the fat of the peace offering. Fire is continually burning on the slaughter place. It is not put out. And this is the Torah, the instruction for the grain offering, which is the mincha. Mincha? M-I-N-C-H-A-H. So the mincha is a meal offering. So this is a free will offering of flour. So here again, not mandatory. These are free will offerings. The Father doesn't want someone to have to feel obligated to come and do something they don't want to do. He wants willing hearts. So he wants us to bring our offerings. He wants us to want to. And if we don't want to, then he doesn't want it. So these are all free will offerings. So the mincha is the meal offering, the grain offering. And this is a free will offering of flour prepared with fine flour, olive oil, and frankincense, usually brought by a person of modest means. Part of the meal offering is burned on the altar, and the remaining part is eaten by the Kohanim, the priests. The word mincha means gift. Note that any flour offering must be baked quickly to prevent the dough from rising, i.e. unleavened bread. Like the animal sacrifices, mincha offerings must also be salted. And it says the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, was required to offer mincha offerings. First, he was required to offer mincha Chinook, a special offering that was given in the morning and afternoon on the first day of his service as high priest. And second, he was required to offer daily minchas as long as he served as high priest. So let's see what the word says about that, starting in, this is chapter 6, verse 14. And this is the Torah, the instructions of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall bring it near before Yahuwah in front of the slaughter place, and shall take from it with his hands from the fine flour, from the grain offering, and from its oil and the frankincense which is on the grain offering, and shall burn it on the slaughter place for a sweet fragrance, as a remembrance portion to Yahuwah. Then Aaron and his sons eat the rest of it. It is eaten with unleavened bread in the set-apart place. They eat it in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. This always makes, when I see this, makes me wonder if there's picnic benches out there, because there's a lot of eating in the courtyard going on with these sacrifices, and I'm wondering if they had places, where they were able to sit and eat, because we'll see here that some of these are, you bring enough and you share it with friends and family. There's a Thanksgiving offering and things like that. So I'm just wondering if the courtyard had places to sit and eat, and it makes sense that there would be a courtyard for people to eat their sacrificial meals. I need to put my finger where I stop so I don't lose my spot. There we go. And eat it in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. It is not baked with leaven. I have given it to them as their portion of my offering made by fire. It is most set apart, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. All the males among the children of Aaron eat it. A law forever in your generations concerning the offerings made by fire to Yahuwah. All that touch them is to be set apart. So it sounds like this is just for, they have to be set apart in covenant, clean, ceremonial clean. So, and Moshe said, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, spoke to Moshe, saying, this is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they bring near. So now the priests need to bring their offering. So those other people, they brought their grain offering, and Aaron, they throw some into the fire, and then they eat the rest. Now Aaron and his sons, the priests, need to bring their offerings out of what they've received. This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they bring near to Yahuwah, beginning on the day when he is anointed, 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a daily grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. So that's the one where they, the day that they start, they do some in the morning and some in the evening. It is made on a griddle with oil. Bring it in mixed. Bring the baked portions of the grain offering near, a sweet fragrance to Yahuwah. And the anointed priest from among his sons, who is in his place, prepares it, a law forever to Yahuwah. All of it has to be burned. And every grain offering for the priest is completely burned. It is not eaten. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the Torah of the sin offering, the instructions for the sin offering. And the sin offering is called Chatat, Chatat, the sin offering. This was a required offering to make atonement for certain sins committed unintentionally by an individual by the high priest, the entire community, the king, or the ordinary Hebrew. Note that there is no explicit sacrifice for deliberate, intentional, and willful sins. And you'll find it interesting. There's all kinds of sacrifices, unintentional sin and all these different things, but there is no sacrifice for intentional sin. Very fascinating to me. But instead, punishment by an early death. So intentional sin, its consequences is early death. Kind of makes sense. Note that the blood for the sin offering was used in the tabernacle through the flesh, and though the flesh and hide were to be burned outside the camp. So this is the Torah, the instructions for the sin offering. In the place where the ascending offering is slain, the sin offering is slain before Yahuwah. It is most set apart. The priest who's making the atonement eats it. It is set apart in the set apart place. It is eaten in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. All that touches its flesh is to be set apart, and when its blood is sprinkled on any garment, you wash that on which it was sprinkled in a set apart place. But the earthen vessel in which it was cooked is to be broken. So it sounds to me like earthen vessel, probably pottery, clay, and it's porous, and so it probably is a breeding ground for bacteria and germs. And it says here, if it's cooked in a bronze pot, then it's scoured and rinsed in water. Every male among the priests eats it. It is most set apart. No sin offering from which any of the blood is brought into the tent of appointment to make atonement in the set apart place is eaten. It is burned with fire. So the blood's all burned with fire. So this is the Torah, the instructions of the guilt offering, the asham. So the asham, the guilt offering, meal offering, peace offering, thank offering, sin offering. Where's the guilt offering? There it is, guilt offering. This was a required offering. Okay, so now this one's not free will. This one is required. As part of the penitence required for certain improper acts. Retaining another's property by swearing falsely. In each case, the wrongdoer was required to restore the property plus an additional 20% to its rightful owner before he could offer the sacrifice and receive forgiveness. Note that the blood for the guilt offering was used in the tabernacle, though the flesh and the hide were to be burned outside the camp. Note that, it adds the chata and the ham offering to be made at the same place. So the chata, the sin offering, and the asham, the guilt offering, and the sin offering, both were made in the same place, the north side of the altar, as the olah offering, suggesting that this was to spare any embarrassment for the Jew or the Hebrew who came to confess their sin and be reconciled to Yahuwah. If someone saw his friend offering up a sacrifice, he would then not know if it were for olah, shatam. So he wouldn't know if it was an ascending offering, a sin offering, or a guilt offering. That's really cool. That's really cool that all those offerings were at the same place, but it offered anonymity. See, our Father, he's so good. He's so good. So this is the Hashem. This is the guilt offering. Sorry, I'm so disjointed. I'm hoping it's making sense here. So 7, and this is the Torah of the guilt offering, and it is most set apart. The guilt offering is slain in a place where they slay the ascending offering, and the blood is sprinkled on the slaughter place all around. So I was really, really curious as to why they're sprinkling blood on everything. To me, it seemed really gross, and it seemed like it would start to stink, and it would be crusty, and it would make a mess. And my logical brain's thinking all these things is, why are they sprinkling and pouring blood everywhere? It just is nasty. But in reading and in seeking, it actually is for atonement. And I'll get to that. So the sprinkling, the blood is sprinkled on the slaughter place and all around. Then he brings from it all of its fat, the fat tail and the fat that covers the entrails, and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them by the loins, and the appendage on the liver, which he removes with the kidneys. And the priest shall burn them on the slaughter place as an ascending offering made by fire to Yahuwah. It is a guilt offering. So this is the guilt offering. Every male among the priests eats it. It is eaten in the set apart place. It is most set apart. The guilt offering is like the sin offering. There is one Torah for both of them. The priest who makes atonement with it it is his. And the priest who brings anyone's ascending offering, the skin of the ascending offering which he has brought is the priest. So with the ascending offering, they get to keep the hide. And so I would imagine that they became quite versed in tanning and tanning hides. And every grain offering that is baked in the oven and all that is prepared in the stewing pot or on the griddle is the priest who brings it, it is his. And every grain offering mixed with oil or dry is for all the sons of Aaron, for all alike. And this is the Torah of the slaughtering of the peace offering, which is brought to Yahuwah. So the peace offering is shalamin. Shalamin is the peace offering. This is a free will offering eaten by the one bringing it, given as a way of expressing thanks to Yahuwah on joyous occasions. Simika, so the laying on of the hands is performed, though instead of confessing their sins, they praise Yahuwah instead. The offerer must wave the offering before Yahuwah, and part of the meat is given to the priests. And then there's a thank offering. They were to be given whenever someone from whenever one of the Hebrews had a reason to recite a blessing for deliverance from some danger. This offering included no less than 40 loaves of bread, 10 with leaven, 30 without, that had to be consumed within 24 hours. And the requirement for so much food was so that the family and friends could come together and celebrate the goodness of Yahuwah for his acts of mercy and deliverance. Isn't that cool? So they basically had a big barbecue at the tabernacle with their friends to be able to celebrate and bring honor and glory and thanksgiving to Yahuwah. That's beautiful. So, and the Torah of the peace offering, which is brought to Yahuwah, if he brings it for a thanksgiving, so that's the thanksgiving offering, he shall bring with the slaughtering of the thanksgiving unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened thin cakes anointed with oil, or cakes of finely blended flour mixed with oil. Beside the cakes, he brings as an offering leavened bread together with the slaughtering of the thanksgiving of his peace offerings. And from it he shall bring one cake from each offering as a contribution to Yahuwah, to the priest who sprinkles the blood on the peace offerings. It is his. So he offers some of the bread to the priest. As for the flesh of the offering of his peace offering for thanksgiving, it is eaten the same day it is offered. So it said it had to be eaten within 24 hours. He does not leave any of it until morning. So you bring your friends, make sure it's all consumed. And if the slaughtering he brings is a vow or a voluntary offering, it is eaten the same day that he brings his slaughtering. And what is left of it is eaten on the next day. So this sounds like, this, they can even camp out and eat, continue to eat more. And this is like a vow or a voluntary offering. But whatever is left over of the flesh of the slaughtering on the third day is burnt with fire. However, if any of the flesh of the slaughtering of the peace offering is eaten at all on the third day, it is not accepted. It is not reckoned to him who brings it. It is unclean to him, and the being who eats of it bears his crookedness. So, there's rules. So they have to eat it before the third day. And the flesh that touches that which is unclean is not eaten. It is burned with fire. And as for the clean flesh, all who are clean eat of it. So they have to be ceremonial clean to be able to eat these offerings. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, do not eat any fat of bull or sheep or goat, and the fat of a dead body, and the fat from one who is torn. You can collect that and you can use it." And I'm just like picturing making tallow, and you can use it for, skin lotion. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, where you can use some of the fat on a fat from of a dead body, and the fat of what was torn can be used for any purpose. but you shall not eat it at all. For whoever eats the fat of a beast which man brings as an offering made by fire to Yahuwah, even the being who eats it shall be cut off from his people. So you're not the what you bring as an offering to Yahuwah, you can't eat the fat or the blood. You can eat the meat, but you can't eat the fat or the blood. And do not eat any blood in any of your dwellings of birds or of beasts. So here it's saying, so the offerings, you can't eat any of the fat or the blood, but you also cannot eat any blood from any kind of animal at any time, in your home, in the tabernacle, anytime, period. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, he who brings his slaughtering of peace offerings to Yahuwah brings his offering to Yahuwah from the slaughtering of his peace offerings. With his own hands he brings the offering made by fire to Yahuwah. He brings the fat with the breast to be waved as a wave offering before Yahuwah. And the priest shall burn the fat on the slaughter place, but the breast shall be Aaron's and his sons. So he brings as an offering, they burn it up, and then they get the breast to be able to eat. The right thigh, the right thigh. No, the breast shall be Aaron and his sons. And the right thigh you give to the priest as a contribution from the slaughtering of your peace offerings. So you also give them the right thigh. He among the sons of Aaron who bring the blood of the peace offering and the fat and the right thigh is for his portion. For the beast of the wave offering and the thigh of the contribution I have taken from the children of Israel from the slaughterings of their peace offerings, and I give them to Aaron the priest and to his sons as a law forever from the children of Israel. So it's a gift offering. This is the anointed portion for Aaron and the anointed portion for his sons from the offerings made by fire to Yahuwah on the day which Moses presented them to serve as priest, which Yahuwah commanded to be given to them by the children of Israel on the day that he anointed them, a law forever throughout their generations. This is the Torah of the ascending offering, of the grain offering, of the sin offering, and of the guilt offering, and of the ordinations, and of the slaughterings of the peace offerings, which Yahuwah commanded Moshe on Mount Sinai on the day when he commanded the children of Israel to bring their offerings to Yahuwah in the wilderness of Sinai. And Yahuwah, this 8. This is Leviticus 8. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, take Aaron and his sons with him, and the garments, and the anointing oil, and the bulls of the sin offerings, and the 2 rams, and a basket of unleavened bread, and assemble all the congregation at the door of the tent of appointment. And Moshe did as Yahuwah commanded him, and the congregation was assembled at the door of the tent of appointment. And Moshe said to the congregation, this is the word Yahuwah commanded to be done. So Moshe brought Aaron and his sons and washed them with water and put a long shirt on him and girded him with the girdle and dressed him in the robe and put the shoulder garments on him and girded him with the embroidered band of the shoulder garment and with it tied the shoulder garment. And he put the breastplate on him and put the Urim and the Tummim and the breastplate. And he put the turban on his head, and on the turban on its front he put the golden plate. Remember the golden plate that was engraved, the set apart sign of dedication. Remember it said set apart to Yahuwah, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And Moshe took the anointing oil and anointed the dwelling place and all that was in it and set them apart. And he sprinkled some of it on the slaughter place 7 times and anointed the slaughter place and all of its utensils and the basin and its base and set them apart. And he poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to be set apart. And Moshe brought the sons of Aaron and put long shirts on them and girded them with girdles and put turbans and girdles, girded them with girdles and put turbans on them as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he brought the bull for the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the bull for the sin offering, and it was slain. And Moshe took the blood and put some on the horns of the slaughter place all around with his finger and cleansed the slaughter place. And he poured the blood at the base of the slaughter place. And so he pours the blood. See, this is where I'm getting with the blood everywhere. Pours the blood at the base of the slaughter place and set it apart to make atonement for it. And he took all of the fat that was on the entrails and the appendages and on the liver and the 2 kidneys with their fat, and Moshe burned them on the slaughter place. And the bull and its skin and its flesh and its dung he burned with fire outside the camp as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he brought the ram of the ascending offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram, and it was slain. And Moshe sprinkled the blood on the slaughter place all around, and he cut the ram into pieces. Then Moshe burned the head and the pieces of the fat, and he washed the entrails and the legs in water, and Moshe burned the entire ram on the slaughter place. It was an ascending offering for sweet fragrance, and an offering made by fire to Yahuwah, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he brought the second ram, the ram of ordination, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram, and it was slain. And Moshe took some of the blood and put it on the tip of Aaron's right ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Now, yesterday when I was reading this, I'm like, why? Why did he do this? Why did he put it on his ear and his thumb and his toe? Well, then when I was reading last night, it explained it. Oh, I have it marked. I think I have it marked. There it is. The blood of the El Hamil, yeah. So that's the ram, was put on the right ear, the right thumb, and the big toe of Aaron and his sons, a clear picture of Yahushua and his sacrifice. Yahushua, Jesus, our Messiah. It's a clear picture of Yahushua and his sacrifice as the coming greater high priest. And the rest of the blood was dashed upon the sides of the altar after its slaughter. Moses took the innards and some unleavened bread and put them in the hands of the priest to perform a wave offering before burning them upon the altar, a picture of resurrection. Finally, Moshe mixed some of the blood of the ram and anointed oil and sprinkled it on the priest's garments. And he sprinkled it on the priest's garments to sanctify them. So I guess this is a form of sanctification, sprinkling the blood. I was so glad to finally understand, because I've 40 years of reading that he sprinkled blood on all this stuff, and why. So now I know why. It is symbolic of it. He sprinkles the blood to sanctify them. It says, as believers in Yahushua, we too have been anointed with the blood from the ram of consecration. Yahushua as Ha-Kohen Ha-Godal, which is the high priest of the better covenant. I don't understand the better covenant. There's one covenant. And we too have been anointed with the sacred oil that symbolizes the presence of the aroma of Yahuwah in our lives. As followers of Yahushua, we are therefore truly a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. 1 Peter 2:9. May Yahuwah be pleased to help you serve him in the truth. So that explains the sprinkling of all the blood. So like I said, I need to mark when I stop reading. So then they're sprinkling the blood. Yes. And he brought near, starting in 24, so it's 8:24, and he brought near the sons of Aaron, and Moshe put some of the blood on the tips of their right ear, and on the thumb of their right hand, and on the big toe of their right feet. And Moshe sprinkled the blood on the slaughter place all around, and took the fat and the fat tail, and all the fat that was on the entrails, and the appendage on the liver, and the 2 kidneys on, and their fat on the right thigh. And from the basket of unleavened bread that was before Yahuwah, he took one unleavened cake and a cake of bread anointed with oil, and one thin cake, and put them on the fat on the right thigh, and placed all of these in the hands of Aaron and the hands of his sons, and waved them as a wave offering before Yahuwah. Moshe then took them from their hands and burned them on the slaughter place, on the ascending offering. They were ordinations for a sweet fragrance. It was an offering by fire to Yahuwah. And Moshe took the breast and waved it as a wave offering before Yahuwah. It was Moshe's portion of the ram of ordination, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And Moshe took some of the anointing oil and some of the blood which was on the slaughter place, and sprinkled it on Aaron, on his garments, and on his sons, and on the garments of his sons with him. And he set apart Aaron, his garments, and his sons, and the garments of his sons with him, to sanctify them. Makes so much more sense now. And Moshe said to Aaron and his sons, cook the flesh at the door of the tent of appointment, and eat it there with the bread that is in the basket of the ordinations, as I have commanded, saying, Aaron and his sons are to eat it. Then burn the rest of the flesh and the bread with fire, and do not go outside the door of the tent of appointment for 7 days, until the day of your ordinations are complete, for he fills your hands for 7 days. And I couldn't understand. He fills your hands for 7 days. It's like he provides for you for 7 days. He keeps you busy for 7 days. So, and I think there's something over here in that. Yahuwah has commanded to do as he has done this day, to make atonement for you, and stay at the door of the tent of appointment day and night for 7 days, and you shall guard the duty of Yahuwah and not die, for so I have been commanded. And Aaron and his sons did all the words that Yahuwah had commanded by the hand of Moshe. And I think, let's say, so it says here, according to tradition, so take it with a grain of salt, the entire procedure was repeated for 7 consecutive days, and each day Moshe would literally reassemble the tabernacle and go through the rituals listed above. This was intended to teach the priests and the Levites their various functions. I mean, that makes sense, because they are going to have to learn how to set it up, tear it down, move it, and then do all of these slaughterings. So 7 days, that was a good practice. Okay, so now we go to the Haftorah, and the Haftorah is Ezekiel 36. And did I? No, I thought I maybe. No, so let's find Ezekiel, because I thought but it must have fallen out. Oh, I did. Nope. Yes. Ezekiel 36, 16 through 38. And this is a special portion. It's a special Shabbat. So next Shabbat is, interestingly enough, the Shabbat of the red heifer. And it is Shabbat Parah. And it is the Shabbat of the red heifer, preparing for Passover. So the Haftorah and the Gospels, they put special ones in because it correlates to the special Sabbath. So 36:16. Here we go. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, when the house of Israel dwelt in their own land, they defiled it by their own ways and deeds. To me, their way was like the uncleanness of a woman on her monthly period. That's pretty serious. So I poured out my wrath on them for the blood that they had shed on the land, and for their idols they defiled it. And I scattered them among the nations, and they were dispersed throughout the lands, and I have judged them according to their ways and their deeds. And when they came to the nations, wherever they went, They profaned my set apart name, for it was said of them, these are the people of Yahuwah, and yet they have gone out of his hand. Isn't that kind of, you think about it, what happened time and time again? You know, they'd have a good king, and they'd all know the ways of Yahuwah, and then they would have a bad king, and new generations would come up, and they would fall away, and then they'd have curses and captivity, and be, you know, every time, and it was rinse and repeat, back and again, and we have to understand that through this time, it was all new generations, you know, children growing up and not hearing Torah, not observing Torah, being in a foreign land with people that have other traditions, and, you know, kind of like where we are today here in America, we've all grown up with man-made traditions of Easter and Christmas and all of the holidays. And we grew up with it because this was the community and the place that we were born and grew up, knowing the things that this country celebrates. We didn't learn the ways of Yahuwah. And those of us that have felt the call back to learn his ways, now we can turn away from the traditions of man. But that's, you know, they would follow the traditions of the other nations. They participate in their holidays and such, and then they would go under the curse, and different things happened. Same thing with us. We need to keep our eyes and focus on his traditions, on what's in here, what he said to do, and not the traditions of man, or even the traditions of the communities or the country that we've grown up in. And I lost my place again. Oh my goodness. Okay, I apologize. Please forgive me. I'm going to start over. And I'll try to hold my spot when I'm talk with my hands. I can't help it. So, and the word of Yahuwah came to me, Son of man, when the house of Israel dwelt in their own land, they defiled it by their own ways and deeds. To me, their way was like the uncleanness of a woman on her monthly period. So I poured out my wrath on them for the blood they had shed on the land, and for their idols they defiled it. And I scattered them among the nations. They were dispersed throughout the lands, and I have judged them according to the ways of their deeds. And when they come to the nations, wherever they went, they profane my set-apart name, for it is said, these are the people of Yahuwah, and yet they have gone out of his hand. But I have compassion on my set-apart name, which the house of Israel had proclaimed among the nations wherever they went. Therefore, say to the house of Israel, thus said the Master Yahuwah, I do not do this for your sake, O house of Israel, but for my set-apart name's sake, which you have profaned among the nations, wherever you went. And I shall set apart my great name, which has been profaned among the nations, which you have profaned in their midst, and the nations shall know that I am Yahuwah, declares the Master Yahuwah, when I am set apart in you before their eyes. And I shall take you from among the nations, and shall gather you out of the lands, and I shall bring you into your own land. And I shall sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean. From all of your filthiness and from all of your idols I cleanse you, and I shall give you a new heart. I love this. And this is what we're waiting for him to gather those in covenant with him, the tribes of Israel that were dispersed among the nations. We're waiting for him to gather us back home, and people will say, well, you're not one of the tribes of, 12 tribes of Israel. Well, I'm grafted in because I have willingly made a choice to be in covenant with Yahuwah, my creator, and therefore I'm grafted in and under the same, I'm treated exactly the same. And throughout scripture, the Hebrew people had to treat the foreigners who chose to be in covenant with Yahuwah, had to treat them exactly the same as if they were natural born citizens. Second. Sorry about that. I had to go load my freeze dryer. It was telling me it was time. And so I didn't save one spot. So let me see if I can find it. Yes. So this is what we're waiting for. And then this part, and I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh. I just love that. And I shall put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings, and shall do them. Yes, Father Yah, let it be so in my life. I want your spirit within me that causes me to walk in your laws and your statutes and to guard them. I just love that. So 36:28, and you shall dwell in the land that I give your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I shall be your Elohim. And I shall save you from all of your uncleanness, and I shall call for the grain and increase it, and I shall bring no scarcity of food among you. And I shall increase the fruit of your trees and the increase of your fields, so that you need never again bear the reproach of scarcity of food among the nations. And you shall remember your evil ways and your deeds that were not good. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own eyes for your crookedness and your abominations. Man, how many of us truly lament and hate the things that we've done in our lives where we didn't bring him honor and walked against his ways? When they come to mind, I just cringe. Now for your sake am I acting, declares Master Yahuwah. Let it be known to you. Be ashamed and blush for your ways, O house of Israel. Thus said Master Yahuwah, on the day that I cleanse you from all of your crookedness, I shall cause the cities to be inhabited, and the ruined places shall be rebuilt, and the land that was laid waste tilled instead of being ruined before the eyes of all who pass by. And they shall say, this land that was laid waste has become like the Garden of Eden, and the wasted and the deserted and the destroyed cities are now walled and inhabited. Then the nations which are left all around you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have rebuilt in the destroyed places and planted what was laid waste. I, Yahuwah, have spoken it, and I shall do it. Thus says the Master Yahuwah, once again, I shall let the house of Israel inquire of me to do for them. I shall increase their men like a flock, as a set-apart flock, as a flock at Jerusalem at her appointed time. Wait a minute. As a flock at Jerusalem, at her appointed times, so shall the wasted cities be filled with flocks of men, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. And the hand, 37, this is Ezekiel 37, and the hand of Yahuwah was upon me, I love this one, and took me out by the Spirit of Yahuwah, and set me down in the midst of a valley, and it was filled with bones. And he made me pass among them all around, and see, there were very many on the surface of the valley, and see, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, would these bones live? And I said, Oh, Master Yahuwah, you know. And again he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and you shall say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Master Yahuwah to these bones, See, I am bringing into you a spirit, and you shall live. And I shall put sinew on you, and bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put a spirit in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Yahweh. Sorry. And I prophesied, and as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and there was a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. And I looked and saw sinews, and flesh came on them, and skin covered them, but there was no spirit in them. He then said to me, Prophesy to the spirit, prophesy, Son of man, and you shall say to the spirit, Thus says the Master Yahuwah, Come from the four winds, O spirit, and breathe on these killed ones, so that they live. And I prophesied, and he commanded me, and the spirit came into them, And they lived and stood upon their feet, and a very great army. And he said to me, Son of man, these bones are all the house of Israel. See, they say, our bones are dry. Our expectancy has perished, and we ourselves have been cut off. Therefore prophesy, and you shall say to them, Thus says the Master Yahuwah, See, O my people, I am opening your burial sites, and shall bring you up from your burial sites, and shall bring you into the land of Israel. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Yahuwah. When I open your burial sites, my people, and bring you up from your burial sites, and I shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall settle you in your own land, and you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken, and I have done it, declares Yahuwah. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, And you, son of man, take a stick for yourself, and write on it, for Yehudah, for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write on it, for Yosef, the stick of Ephraim, and for all of the house of Israel, his companions. Then bring them together for yourselves into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand. So this is the day that the lost tribes, all of the tribes come back, and they come back together, and there is no northern tribe of Israel and southern tribe of Yehudah. There's just one family. One family. What's the word? Ahad. Unity. They've come together. And when the children of your people speak to you, saying, Won't you show us what you mean by these? Say to them, Thus says the Master Yahuwah, See, I am taking the stick of Yosef, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his companions, and I shall give them in unto him with the stick of Yehudah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And the sticks of which you write shall be in your hands before their eyes, and speak to them. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, I am taking the children of Israel from among the nations, wherever they have gone, and shall gather them from all around the world, and I shall bring them into their land. So exciting. And I shall make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel, and one sovereign shall be sovereign over them all, and let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns. And they shall no longer defile themselves with their idols, nor with their disgusting matters, nor with any of their transgressions. And I shall save them from all of their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and I shall cleanse them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. Yes, yes. While David, my servant, is sovereign over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and walk in my right rulings, and guard my laws, and shall do them. So we know that when all this happens, it's not going to be David over them, but the son of David, which is Yahushua, Jesus, the Messiah. And they shall dwell in the land, and I have given to Jacob, my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell in it, and they and their children and their children's children forever, and my servant David, be their prince forever. And I shall make a covenant of peace with them, an everlasting covenant. It is with them, and I shall place them and increase them, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever. My dwelling place shall be over them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the nations shall know that I, Yahuwah, am setting Israel apart, when my set apart place is in their midst forever. I love it. Something so exciting to look forward to. And then the Gospels is John 11. John 11, 42 through 56. So 11. Oh, that's 12. There we go. 42. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered a council and said, What shall we do? So my understanding that the Pharisees, well, I won't get into it because I don't know enough, but I don't know enough. I'll share later when I learn more. So the chief priests and the Pharisees, this is John 11:47. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered a council and said, "What shall we do? Because this man does many signs, if we let him alone like this, they shall believe him, and the Romans shall come and take away from us both our place and nation." And one of them, it's Qayapha, but I know that in other Bibles, let me see here. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John 11. John 11. Yochanan, John 11. I always like to see it in a different Bible, the names especially, because they're so different in the Hebrew. I mean, I love the fact that I need to know who they are. So it's 49, 11, 49, and see who it says. But one of them, Qayapha, being high priest that year, said to them, so I think it's Caiaphas. I think that's from our English Bibles. That's what you know not. Neither do you consider that it is better for us than one man to die for the people than the entire nation should perish. But he did not say this from himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahushua was about to die for the nation. And not for the nation only, but to gather together unto one the children of Elohim who were scattered abroad. So from that day on, they plotted to kill him. Yahushua therefore no longer went openly among the Yahudim, amongst the Jews, the tribe of Judah, because that's all that was left there at that time. The 10 tribes of Israel have never come back. They were scattered and dispersed, and they stay so to this day. The tribe of Yehuda came back. And so Yahushua therefore no longer went out openly among the Yahudim, but went from there into the country near the wilderness to a city called Ephraim, and remained there with his taught ones, his apostles. Now, the Passover of the Yahudim was near, and many went from the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to set themselves apart. And so they were seeking Yahushua and spoke among one another, standing in the set apart place. What do you think? Is he not coming to the festival at all? And that's where we leave it. Actually, I'm going to finish the last chapter. And it says, and both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a command that if anyone knew where he was, he should disclose it in order for them to seize him. So, super exciting. I want to close, just say thank you. Thank you for me being patient, me jumping. I was just so excited that so many questions that I had, and maybe this is the reason why that those recordings didn't work, because I kept going, well, why this and why that? I mean, in my questions, I have, this is a beautiful thing about this book is it has where you put the Torah portions here, and then it says summary of the portion. And so it says the commands given to Moshe from Yahuwah in regards to the sacrifices and the priesthood. So, and then here it says meaning of words. And so korbanot is one of the words that was in here, and it means the offerings, the sacrifices. Then we have here notes, and I took so many notes I actually had to put another page in. And then we have ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be opened unto you. And these are questions. And so, why break the earthen vessel? Why the right thigh? What does putting the blood on the horn signify? What does putting the blood on Aaron and his son signify? Why sprinkle the blood all over the, on their clothing? And then it says, do you see the Messiah or any similarities to him in these passages? How do these stories, and see, I have a week still to continue studying here. I read it to you, and then I spend this week studying, and then at the end of the week I come back and share more that I've learned. And I probably should have saved all of that from this other book and saved it in my Torah tidbits, but I was just so excited that I was finding answers to my questions. So this one, how do these stories tie into the meaning of this week's portion? Do you notice any repeating patterns or pointing to the fulfillment of his holy appointed days? And how does this week's Torah portion apply to our own lives today? And then there's additional resources and favorite Bible verses. So, there's several pages to use to study for each week. It's just so exciting. And I've never been a studier, and I prayed that the Father would teach me how to study because I don't know how to study. I didn't do a whole lot of school. And when I was there, I wasn't there. And I didn't want to be there, and I wanted to be as far away from there as possible. And I literally, pretty much, the only full year of high school that I went was my freshman year. And partway through my sophomore year, we moved out of the country and then came back. And partway through my junior year, I took the GED and left school. So my freshman year is basically I have a 9th grade education. So studying never happened. I didn't study. I don't know how, but Yehovah is teaching me how to study, and having this study guide, this workbook, has really helped because it asks the question. So now when I go through, I'm like, oh, where do I see Messiah in this? Where do I, so it's exciting. So I want to leave you with, I'm just learning. This is honestly my first year of going all the way through the Torah portions, starting at the beginning. I did parts of it the past 2 years, but would fall off or different things, get distracted, preoccupied, whatever. And so I'm just learning. So don't, okay, I've got someone coming out the driveway. I forgot I have an appointment. Don't trust what I tell you because I don't know everything and I'm just learning. Go out and test. Read for yourself. Go research it for yourself. And with that, I'm going to say, be blessed, and we'll see you later this week with my Torah tidbits. Bye.